Good afternoon, everybody. And I know for some of you, it's later in the evening and early in the morning. We've got people from all over the world today. Thanks for being with me. As always, I appreciate it greatly. Today, we're going to talk about some of the new stuff in Photoshop 2025. Even though it's version 26, they call it Photoshop 2025. So they just want to confuse us a little. So I'm going to jump right in here. Let's close that one. I'm going to open my first image. And I'm going to show you what AI can do and sometimes what it can't do as well. So we're going to be trying a few different things today. So this was a cell phone image I took a couple weeks ago. We were at a show down in Pigeon Forge on my birthday. And it's called Country Tonight. And it was their Country plus Christmas show. So I haven't made any adjustments to this. This is just right from my phone. So I am going to duplicate my layer. And the reason I'm going to do that is if I don't like the result of what we're going to do, it's just easier to delete the layer and then still have your other layer under it. I'm not worrying about editing right now. Tonight we're just talking about functions, so I'm not going to really be doing all that much actual editing. So with the early release to Photoshop 2025, there was a new remove tool. And if you look over here on the left toolbar, it looks like the Band-Aid tool, like our healing, but it's got two little, there's stars. When the first versions of 2025 came out, this tool was nestled under the healing brush tool. These three were all grouped together with the little arrow like some of them have so that you would right-click it and then see more tools. With the latest update, when I did it last week, when I was doing these notes, I noticed that the tool is now, they've all been separated. So we're just going to select this remove tool. And what I want to remove is this big speaker. We were sitting in the front row of the show, so we had this speaker kind of like right in front of us. So once you select that up on the top toolbar, we have a couple of options, and we're going to be trying these with different projects. So under Find Distractions, if we have wires or cables to remove, like power lines, we can use that one. Or if we want to highlight people that are like in the background in a scene that you don't want there, then you can use that one. We're not going to use those two on this one. This one we're going to actually just take our brush, which is already there since we selected this tool, and I'm just going to mask over the area I wanted to get rid of. Now you want to include a little bit of the overage onto your scene, and you'll notice as I outlined it, it filled in that center, so I didn't have to brush over the whole thing. So that makes it a little easier, but you want to include a little bit of the background so it has some context of what we're working with here. Okay. And then up here at the top under Mode, under that drop down, you'll see a couple different options. So if you use Auto, it may use the Generative AI, and it says, excuse me, in their info that if the selected area is larger than 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels, then it will use the Generative AI. Now remember, Generative AI uses your monthly credits that come with your Creative Cloud plan. If you don't know how many you have, you can go into your Creative Cloud account and it will tell you up where your profile is. I think most accounts have 200, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but it really takes a long time to use that unless you're doing a whole lot of AI work. Somehow my account has 500. I don't know why, but okay, I'll go with that. I haven't even come close to using 200 yet. If you definitely want to use Generative AI, you can turn it on or off if you want to. Generally, you can leave it on the option one. And even though I haven't done anything, to really need it to read both layers, you can leave the sample of layers on because it doesn't really matter if it reads both in this case. And then we're going to hit the check mark, and it's going to generate. Now with this tool, it does not give you the three different images like it does with the normal Generative AI. It will pick the one out of whatever it generates to show you that it thinks is the best. Now, the first time I did this, it came out great. I was really thrilled with it, and I'll show you the finished ones when we're done. The second time I did it, well, that one's so-so. The second one was really terrible. This is similar to what I got when I was showing David the other day, or yesterday, I think, when I was going over the notes. This one would be probably acceptable, probably if you adjusted some of the color on here. But I'm going to show you what I came up with the first time. So I'm going to open up the finished one. And this one I thought came out really, really good. And I like that better than having the legs that way. I thought it looked more natural to the way he was actually standing. And then when I did it, when I was doing the notes, it made the legs of the pants like really baggy, and I thought that was like really weird. So again, that one I think came out the best. So sometimes you will have to try these things more than once. It's just the nature of AI and what it's going to excuse me, read and do. And that's why with most of the AI things you get those different options if you wanted to you know, make your choices. And I'm just looking at the Q&A while I'm going through here. Do the credits expire if not used? I think, yeah, it's just you get that many per month, they don't carry over. So you can't build up like a stock of credits, unfortunately. So, what's up, babe? Yes, she is. She just commented. Hi, Pat. Dave said, my go-to person, Pat's not here today. Yes, she is. And what if you purchase extra? That's a good question. I haven't really looked into that, to be honest. I would have to check on that. I'm not sure if anybody else has done that, if they know, let us know. But otherwise, I would have to check that out. Is there a way to refresh? No, what I would have to do is like, and again, that's why I like having a separate layer. If I didn't like this version, I would just delete that layer, reduplicate it, and then try it again. With this one, you don't have the option, like with the others, where you may get the, the 3 options, and then you can generate more. You can't do that with this particular function. And why didn't it join them this time? This time it's going to make me fill it in. Maybe because I missed a spot. I don't know. But we can try it one more time. Just kind of see what we get here. I like it better when it does it by itself. It goes quicker. And just hit the check mark. So Amy says, Vicki, my understanding is you get the allotment monthly and they do not roll over. That being said, unless it has changed, if you were to go over your monthly allotment, it only slows. You're not blocked. That's correct. You don't it doesn't say, oh, you're out of credits. Too bad. You can't do anything else. It just may generate slower than it does now. For now, that's the way it is. So that one didn't come out too bad. We've got, I don't know, it made it like a microphone stand, but that we could clone out with the regular AI, generative AI or something. So that we could definitely get rid of. That one's not too bad. It's probably fairly close to that one. So that one came out much better. That one I didn't. That was our other one we didn't like. Yeah, that one's not too bad either. So like I said, sometimes you just have to try things a couple of times to get it to work right. So I'm going to move on because I've got lots of cool stuff to show you. We're not going to save that. So next up, yeah, the one sort of did look like a skirt the way it fluffed it out there. So this is another one. This was just a shot I took. This was in Baltimore, Maryland a few years ago. We were walking around. There were some musicians playing and, lots of stuff going on in the background. So I wanted to see what I could do with this one. So first I decided let's try the remove people and see what that does for it. So we're on our tool already, go up to the find distractions, and now we'll try the people. And it's going to highlight it for you the way, like where I masked it, you can see there it masked these people really well. It did a pretty good job, and we could work with the hair later. So then you would just click the check mark and it would fill in that background somehow. And again, I've tried it a couple times, and one time it worked pretty well. The other time it was kind of a mess back there. But we're going to end up changing the whole background anyway. But I want you to see how some of these things work. Don says, if you're planning to enter the image into a competition, you should select the Generative AI off option. That's a good point, because a lot of camera clubs do not allow any AI at all. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. Thanks, Don. So here I kind of made a car back there, and I forgot to duplicate that one, but I can go into the history and show you what it looked like. So that was our before, and there's our after. So it, decided on that, but I decided to do something different and get rid of the background. So another way that we can go is on our regular Generative AI toolbar down here I have mine pinned to the bottom so it stays out of my way. If you're not sure how to do that, just click these 3 little dots and pin bar position once you have it where you want it, and you can uncheck it if you want to move it. So I'm going to do a remove background and see what we get. So it did a pretty good job. Again, we can mess around with the hair a little bit as we go along here. It did a pretty good job taking out the background. And then I'm going to generate a background with a prompt. And the prompt I used was a concert stage with red spotlights. So now I'll get the 3 options because this is a regular Generative AI function. And again, some are better than the second time I did it, I found something better. That's kind of cool. Yeah, that's too distracting. Let's see. Helen says, I wish that we could add our own backgrounds in some of these cases, but that doesn't seem possible. Yes, we definitely could do that. And I'll get to that in just a second. So for now, let's go with this one, and then I'll show you the other one I came up with. And again, if you don't like these 3, you can just hit generate again and get 3 more and see what it comes up with. Oh, I like that one better. Yeah, I don't like that line there. That one's not too bad. Let's go with this one. That one's pretty cool. So I'm just going to close that because we're going to use that one. And if you ever need to get back to those selections while you're on the generative layer, if you go into Window and Properties, it will reopen that panel. So if you wanted to play around with it some more. So then I decided to add a brightness and contrast layer to brighten her up a little bit. So I said we're not going to do a lot of editing, but just kind of show you what I did with this particular image. So brightness and a little bit of contrast. And then the hairs don't look too bad here. On the other one I did, they were a little dark. So I took a brush on this mask, take my soft brush, I'm already on the soft brush, and I'm going to lower the opacity to about 50%. And then I just brushed over them a little bit and got rid of some of the darker areas at the edge, and that worked well. And then I thought that the arm on this side seemed really sharp compared to, it looked kind of like that cutout look. So again, I'm going to take the brush, I'm going to make it smaller, and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm just going to, because I have a soft brush, I'm going to go really lightly right along the edge of her arm and just kind of soften that mask a little bit here, just to ease it up just a little bit. And it's real subtle because I'm not using and then I went a little too far, too high opacity on the brush. So I just softened it just a little, and you can, go all the way down and do the fingers and all as well. And then the last thing I did was to just give it a little more look. I'm going to open the last one and I'll just show you what I did over here. Yeah, the hand's a little out of focus because it was moving, Carol. So again, I think this was, I don't know if it was a camera shot or a cell phone. I don't remember. This is the one I did that's showing in your notes, and I added a little bit of Glamour Glow with the Nick filter just to soften it a little bit. So that was the before. I'll zoom in. And then with a little Glamour Glow, it just softened the edges a little bit more, and I thought it just helped it blend better. So you can always use lots of different techniques together, you know, to get all your components looking as good as you can. And in the notes, I have the settings that I used for that one. But it would be cool for, you know, if you guys are buying the notes, you'll have these original images and see what kind of backgrounds and things you generate, because I'm sure you'll come up with different things than the ones that I have. So I like the one with the blue. I think it's a little more subtle. This one's a little bright, but like I said, you never know. You got to keep trying some of them. All right, so next up, we're going to do a couple things on here. So again, this is unedited photo. This one was with a camera. I think this was this Baltimore too, hon? I think might have been. So I think it was Baltimore. So we're going to get rid of this person first. So let's go back to our remove tool, find distractions, and people. Okay, so I found him. It also found the person on the boat, which I don't want to get rid of him. So all you have to do is hold your Alt or Option keys. Now that you can see my cursor has the minus sign in the center, and then just take away that mask. So then it won't change him. So now we want to get rid of him. So we're going to go ahead and hit that check mark. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, about the background. And Pat put it in the chat. Yeah, once you have the background removed, you can bring in any photo behind it. Just like if you're bringing in a texture behind something, you could bring in a background and use your own backgrounds as well. You don't have to generate something. So, sorry, Helen, I forgot to get to that step. All right, so that person's gone, and it did a pretty good job here. And I'm going to crop some of this anyway. So that looks fine. The water looks good. So we'll go with that. And so now I wanted to get rid of this curved railing. We were on another boat coming in. I think it was like a harbor cruise. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to just, this time I'm going to brush over it. And then we're going to hit the check mark. And I forgot to duplicate my background again, but that's okay. Just jumping right in there. There we go. So that did a pretty good job. That looks pretty natural in there. I don't see anything that looks odd or really weird there. So then what I wanted to do last on this one was to do some cropping and see if I could get it to do the top of the mask with the generative expand. So I'm going to go to my crop tool. First I need to straighten this a little bit. So we're going to do that. And I use this line over like the shoreline to straighten it. And then I want to bring it in on this side. Get rid of that altogether. Come into about there, I think. And the side, it came in to about here. And the first one I did that you'll see in the notes, it has like other windows over here. This time I did a solid. We can come in a little bit more. And then now I want to go, crop just a tad there. I'm going to stretch this one up and see what it creates for the top of the mast here. And this will give me, generative expand. Oh, poo. I forgot to, I should have clicked that first instead of the check mark. All right, let's undo that. Sorry. I'm going to redo that. Let's duplicate this too. So we're going to do this. Get ahead of myself. So we want to go up that way. Come into about there. I'm going to come in a little bit farther and do generative expand on the bottom. And I'm not going to tell it what to do. We're just going to hit generate. Again, this was an unedited photo, so you would do more to correct everything. And that did a pretty good job of extending the top. Let's see what the others were. Yeah, that one actually looks pretty good. The other one I got a little, almost like a little flag when I did it before. This looks even better. And then if you wanted to, crop down afterwards, you could do that. I would definitely change the sky in this image. Or maybe in Luminar, I might be able to use the sky enhancement and bring out some of the clouds and the color. But it definitely, is an unedited photo, so it needs lots of work. Jan, it says, can you use generative expand in camera clubs? I would check with the club because some may allow some of that. A lot of them don't. I'm sure if you're putting the image into like PSA or any CCC, I would say no, because I know they do not allow any kind of generative, but some of the clubs might, maybe in a creative category, but I would definitely, check your club rules. Because everybody's does vary. All right, so that's that one. So now we're going to do one more with some people removal. This was quite a few years ago in Port Jefferson on Long Island. They had a Christmas day, and man, was it cold and windy. We went with a bunch of people. So first I'm going to straighten this a little bit, straighten that pole up, and then I'm going to crop it a little bit too. Actually, I'm not going to do that first. Let's do the generative first, because then so we're going to do a regular, our tool over here, and do find distractions, people. And there you go. It's highlighted them pretty well. And so we're going to go ahead and hit the check mark. First time I did this, it did a really good job of filling in that window. So let's see what we get now. Yeah, that did a good job. You got some reflections of whatever's going on out there. The bricks look pretty good. So now I would straighten this. I'm straightening it to that pole there. I would bring this in probably a little bit on his arm, and because I want to get rid of that spot, but I wanted the the window to be clear there and without the people behind his shoulder. Then we can come in a little bit on that side, bring this one down. So we could do a little bit of generative expand on the bottoms and the top. I'm going to see if we can get the rest of his hat in there, if it'll complete that, and do generative expand. So you can definitely, always use all your tools in, on the same image, depending on what you need. Don said this, in this case, the generated background was a little bit brighter. I think it was picking up because it had the highlights up there, so it was picking that up a little bit too. And you could always, selectively adjust brightness and color and things if you need to. Oh, I forgot to hit the second button. Sorry. I'm like, why is it not doing anything? Darcy says, have I used Firefly? I have not gone down that rabbit hole yet. Yes, I have. And basically, Firefly is now kind of included in here with all of this stuff. This is based on the Firefly, module kind of thing. But Firefly is cool if you want to, create something totally from scratch. I would go over there to do that. But this is taking from that and incorporating that into our main Photoshop now. Yes, it's definitely a rabbit hole if you want to really get started. I have some of my pictures at a friend's store locally, and somebody had come in and asked if I had a picture of a dragonfly. She wanted to get it for a friend's birthday who liked dragonflies. So my friend Cindy asked me, and I'm like, well, I don't have a good dragonfly picture, but why didn't it complete that one? Said it had an error. Let's try it again while I'm chit-chatting. So I went into Firefly. You know what? I'm going to duplicate this layer and see if that makes a difference. Sometimes it does when you're rotating and stuff. Let's go up and come down a little bit. So I went in and generated Dragonfly photos, and they were pretty amazing. I was like, whoa. Yes, Dave's just saying Andrew Kavanaugh is going to be one of our speakers for the conference next month, and he is a Firefly whiz. He comes up with some amazing creations. If you don't follow him on Facebook or social media, you should. He does some really, really amazing images, and he's going to be doing a class on that in the actually I have the schedule right here. Yes, he's okay. Dave's already checked it out. The last session on Saturday is going to be generative AI in Photoshop, and then I'm switching them. And then on Sunday, he's doing surreal compositing in Photoshop. So he'll be using lots of AI stuff. So if you haven't signed up for the conference yet, still have time. Why? It's not liking this one for some reason. All right. Well, I guess we're not going to expand those two. And this is, the way these programs go sometimes. So anyway, I would probably try to do that again later and see if it would work. But it did a good job of cleaning up what we needed over there. Pat says, not sure if PSE has generative AI. I don't know if Elements does or not. I haven't used. My guess is probably not, but I could be wrong. And Pat says she's had trouble with generative AI today too, that the servers are a little wonky. Well, that could be. Yeah, and Amy said maybe, try doing just one side or the other first. If we can have time, I'll leave that one open. Maybe we'll come back to it and try it that way. I'm going to get to the other ones first and see if we have time, we'll try that. All right. So here are some power lines. And of course we need to straighten these because I took this from a really low angle. This was a cell phone shot, and this is one of our local places, although now this trees have grown up so high you can hardly see any of the silo anymore. So let's duplicate our background layer. And first I'm going to straighten these out a little bit. So let's go to our edit, transform, and I like to use skew so I can control each side individually. So I'm going to stretch that out some and stretch this out some. And I know I'm going to get rid of the pole, so I really don't care about that. And then I'm also going to, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to stretch this image because it kind of squishes things when you stretch it out to the sides like that. So that I'm going to go edit, transform, scale. And that's going to let me pull this. Hold the shift key because I don't need to go all the way. I can hold the shift key and just stretch it up a little so it looks more like it should. And it's not perfectly straight yet, and we can play with that more. A little bit of angle sometimes works because things don't normally look straight up and down when you're looking at things that way. Okay, so we have our duplicate. So now we're going to go to our remove tool, find distractions, wires, and cables. Debbie says that she thinks their sale has overwhelmed Adobe. Yeah, I know they have the thing on Amazon usually during Black Friday, so that could be lots of people jumping in. And you can see it did an amazing job of getting rid of our power lines. And then I just used, it left a little bit of the yellow, the guidelines here. I would just use my healing brush. What's that, dear? Oh, Dave just looked it up, and Photoshop Elements 2025 does have generative AI. So there you go. So I got rid of those in there, and then I would use the remove tool to go over our poll here. And sometimes when things overlap, like from a sky to a ground or trees or something, sometimes it works better to do it in 2 steps. We're going to give it a shot and see what happens. Not too bad. And then you can go back to your regular healing brush and kind of get rid of some of this icky stuff. I know I have in the notes, because I tried it this way and it didn't work so good the first time. So I did the pull down to like the top of this and then just used the healing brush to get rid of, some of the tops of that. And then at this point you could, do some more straightening if you wanted to, and, move it around the way you want. But it definitely got rid of those lines quickly and easily. If you're a Luminar user, you're familiar with the power line removal in there, and it works pretty much as good as that. I did try it on an image, one of my barns that had barbed wire fence in front of it, and it wants to remove the barbed wire as well. So in that case, I wouldn't use the tool, I wouldn't use the wires and cables probably on all of it. I don't know if there's a way to selectively do it because you need to bring them back, which with like a generative AI you could, but you can't like unmask part of it. So that might be a good case for having a duplicate layer, and then you could mask off from here like everything but the sky where it took out the power line, so that you would still have your barbed wire in front of a barn or something. Yeah, Phil just asked the question and I just answered things. Yeah, I like Luminars as well. And what the difference would be is with the Luminar one, you could unselect, the lines if it did select like barbed wire fencing or something you didn't want it to remove, you could easily just mask it back in. But you could, with 2 layers, accomplish the same thing in Photoshop. All right, so that's that one. So next, we're going to do a lot of generative stuff in here. So there is, the generative expand has been improved, so they say. So it does seem to do a good job. And you can also do the generative stuff in camera raw filter. So I'm going to skew this a little bit first. I want to straighten out this sides. So we're going to go to edit. Oh, let's duplicate this first. Control J, edit, transform, skew. And I'm going to bring that out. And I'm just eyeballing that they look pretty straight. So that looks good. There. And then I'm going to do in camera raw filter. I did some adjustments in here and just we want to maybe up the exposure just a hair, a little bit more contrast. highlights down, shadows up, whites, blacks, and let's do a little bit of vibrance. Pop the greens a little bit in the outdoors. And that should do it. Maybe under detail. Actually, here I want to do a little bit of texture and clarity. And say, okay. Okay, so we have that looking better. So now I want to expand this a lot. I want to see if I can create the bottom half of this window and a little bit more on the side and the top. So let's see if this will cooperate now. So we're going to go to our crop tool, and I want to go up about there. Come out about maybe like that. Just a little bit on that side. And I actually ended up doing the bottom and then doing more because it didn't really go. So let's see if I can get it all in one shot this time. And let's see if it will cooperate. And oh, darn. I did it again. I don't want to do that. Hitting the check mark, and I know Dave says, slow down. Trying to do too many things at once. There we go. Let's try this again. And I don't know what that is. All right. Crap. One more time. I don't want to hit the check mark. I want to hit generative expand and generate. And see if it will complete. Ian says, can you demo a stroke around the photo to see it out of the black space? I don't think I can do a stroke at that point because I'm in the middle of that tool. I don't think I can go to a different function without losing what I was doing. Well, this came up really different than the one I got before. And Pat says she usually does one side at a time. So yeah, it came out actually rather interesting. It added a door over here, added some flowers. This one, it started making a second window. I did get some second windows in my first batch, which I'm not as thrilled with. I'm going to show you what I got when I did this the first time. Come on. And I got this version. It kind of added a wall and a light and, you know, a little more ceiling. And I thought that was pretty cool, but I'm kind of liking that one. Interesting. You know, this is on a table. Looks like some, I'm guessing they're books. Can't tell if it's books or wood. But that well, I didn't make it, dear. This program did. And I don't know what that little thing is there, but we could always get rid of that. That's really interesting. Yeah, I created whatever that little shadow is. Pat said try the 3 dots and have it. Yeah, if we go in here and go to our properties, and then if you hover over the one you like and these 3 little dots and say generate similar, so it'll do some more kind of in that vein instead of just randomly choosing 3 more. You know, if you just hit the generate button. Darcy, maybe Hazel will share the gold with us. Other gold bars, yeah, right. I wish. You know, when we were chatting before we started, Charles said, I'm with all the people from around the world, I'm as popular as Taylor Swift. I said, yeah, I wish I had her money. Okay, so we have that one, and then, yeah, it didn't really, did it do anything different? I don't see anything different. What's that, babe? Yeah, it didn't really, That's the one I did before. It doesn't look like it really did much. Anyway. Oh, it faulted out. Okay, I missed that, Hudson. So, yeah, Photoshop is having some issues today, apparently. But that's rather interesting. I mean, that you could create from, just this little window that we had. And there you can kind of see how far I stretched it to, something that's totally different and rather interesting. I mean, you could come up with all kinds of cool things. So that's that one. And this one. What's that, dear? Yeah, Dave said not a good day for AI. Yeah, it's having some issues today, it seems. It's been working fine for me since I've done, the updates and all. So, Virginia said, has the resolution of the generated areas improved? I don't know if they really have changed them a lot, but I don't really see that they look much different than my images, so maybe they have. I haven't found anything that looks noticeably, lower resolution from the rest. I know like Firefly generates at a lower resolution, so anything that I've done in there, like when I did those dragonfly shots, I took them into gigapixel and upsized them so I could get the quality that I wanted for printing, because they only do them at like 72 dpi. All right, so now we have some other new things we're going to talk about in Camera Raw. So this is a JPEG file, and then we're going to do one on a RAW file. So two things that are important to note when you're doing the crop tool in Camera Raw. To actually see the crop tool, you have to be on a RAW file. If you're using Camera Raw as a filter, which I'm going to do with this because it's a JPEG file, so when I go into filter, Camera Raw filter, it's working as a filter, not as the Camera Raw module. So I do not have up here a crop tool, but I will when we do it on a RAW file. Okay, but you can still use the generative expand and things here in RAW if you want to. It's currently available as what they're calling a technology preview. So to access this feature, you go to the gear wheel for the settings in Camera Raw, which is up here at the top. You have to be in Camera Raw, not your regular settings. And then in here under technology previews, you want to make sure you have that turned on. Okay, you only have to do that once, but that's what will make it work and give you the tools for it. And then you need to restart Photoshop for this to show up and work the first time. What's it, dear? Oh, Stephanie said, did you walk in and yell fire to clear it out? No, you've actually been here. This is at the old car place that we went to here in Rogersville. They had all the different buildings and diner. This was the diner. They have a movie theater. They have all the different buildings that we walked down the hill. So that's where this is. And Sandy said it's the same in Lightroom. I'm not sure. I have not researched all the Lightroom features yet. I find myself using Lightroom less and less for my editing because Photoshop has everything I need, and I just end up bringing my images right into Photoshop. So I'm not sure. You'd have to check on that, Sandy. Okay, so in here, so I've duplicated it. We're in the Camera Raw filter. So if you use this geometry tool, which is the second one up here, and if you hover, it shows you what it is. It will let you do some things here in the image. So in order to do a generative expand, first you have to have something that it needs to expand into. Right now, I haven't, like twisted it or turned anything to give it any edges. You can't drag it outside of it because we don't have the crop tool at this point. Like I said, if you're on a JPEG file. But if I go in here and I change like my vertical, I'm going to type it in here because I have the numbers written down. So if I go 48 and -7 and the offset X, oops, so minus 0.9 and minus 5.6. So I've twisted and turned the image. So now there is something somewhere it needs to generate, right? And so now I'm not going to say okay. I'm going to click this generate button, and that will give us our generative expand. Oh, gosh. Photoshop is definitely not working well today. Holy cow. Right, well, that's where it's supposed to work. And I'll show you the finished one so you can see what it did. Let's try it again. I don't know. It's just being a pain. Yeah, it's got to be the Adobe servers because my computer's been working fine all day. Let's see if it will finish. Hey, it worked. Okay, so you can see it expanded our image and filled things in. And it did a pretty good job. I'm going to crop some of that, but it still did a really good job on that. So now we can say, okay. And now we're back here into Photoshop. So we went from, that's our original, to that. So you can see I skewed it some more and changed the angle, which I'm not sure I really like, but I'm going to do a little more skewing in here. So you could, again, if you like working with a lot of layers like I do, you could say this was camera raw and then duplicate it again. And I'm going to go to my image, transform, and skew. And I might pull these back out a little bit. And move that one up a little so it's a little bit straighter. Across the back here. And then I would crop it a little bit. Probably come down above all that stuff to like the windows. And actually that works okay over there. Maybe come up a little here. Excuse me. And say okay. And grab it. So it's okay, let's check our questions. So Virginia said, oh guys, please make sure you change your commenting to everyone so everybody can see your questions. Virginia says, how do you get to that ACR settings in Photoshop you just showed? I clicked on settings and I don't see that, so I guess I missed it. So once we're in here, you're going to go into your camera raw filter. Excuse me. Yeah, Dave says it's in the notes. So if you haven't used this feature before, you're going to go into the gear wheel up here first and turn on the new AI features and settings panel so that you get the controls. And once that has done, then you need to restart your Photoshop for that to take effect. And then you will have now this tool here for the geometry, and that will let you do the skewing here in Camera Raw. And then you also have, this is your adjustment panel. So when you click this, you'll get a different panel. If you want to do removing things, you can also now remove and use generative AI here in Camera Raw. So let's try it. I actually didn't try this one. So let's make that a little smaller. Let's see if we can remove this like fan down there. So I brushed over that, and let's remove and see what it can do. There you go. That did a pretty good job. So you can also do, some of this other kind of stuff here in Camera Raw. I'm not sure what's the advantage to doing it in Camera Raw versus in Photoshop, unless, if you just want to kind of do everything in one place. But it's always good to have options. And okay, there we go. And then there it goes away. So that's that one. So now if we do a camera raw image, so I'm going to open up this one. And then I'll show you the difference when you're actually on a raw file. So now if I go into my, actually it's a raw file, so it's going to open the camera raw panel for you if you open it right into Photoshop like that. You can see now there's another tool up here. Now there's a crop tool, which we didn't have when we were using it as a filter. So now we can click on crop, and we're going to, maybe, come on. Okay, it's just going to be difficult today. Oh, I got that, but I want to. Shouldn't have to hold anything. It's a crop tool. Oh, enable expand. Let's try that. There we go. So you have to check enable expand if you want to expand it. And I went pretty far on this image. Let's see what we come up with. All right. So we did that, and then we're going to click our generate. And this will give you variations. And not too bad. Not probably the best, but, and you're, instead of seeing like a panel with the variations, it says 1 of 3, you can just click the little arrows to go to, that's the second one. That's the third one. I don't like that one. That was the first one. Probably like that one the best. So that, you know, and then once you've done that, you can go back to the, up here, the edit panel, and then go in and do your adjustments to your color and all of that, and then open it into Photoshop to do any final work. Obviously, this is also an unedited photo. It was just a raw file that I brought in. I picked different files just to see what things would do. This was a bird flying through, apparently. That's even in the final one. I'm going to open the one I ended up with before. After I did some adjustments to it, there's a seagull flying through. If you didn't want that, you could clone it out because it's kind of blurry. But this one did a pretty good job of adding some good things there. This one I'm not sure that I like that pole there. So again, you know, generative AI is not a perfect science, but it definitely, you know, gives us lots of options. Okay. So I have just a couple more. So this one is also a raw file. So I would, you know, make all your adjustments. Under detail, I did some noise reduction, and then under the crop tool, and here I did the offset Y to, I just moved it over in the frame so that I could, you know, get it off centered. And then I want to do the generative expand. Actually, I wanted to expand that way, but so let's say that's 1, 2, 3, and all it's doing is changing that, so that looks, that one probably looks the best. And now let's see if I can do this again. So we're going to keep that. And now if I, whoops, want to up here, enable expand. I want to get something, the top of this mask here, see what it will do up there, and generate. And this one, it gave me the top of the mast. Yeah, it just filled it off, which is fine. Which is really what it should be. So any one of those is actually pretty good. And then I would do go into the editing, and I'll show you the finished one I came up with before. And this one, it gave me a little flag up there, which is okay. If you don't want that, you could always just, heal that part out. And obviously there's dust spots that need cleaning, maybe change the sky out. But you can do a lot with that one. And then we've got a few minutes left. Let's see if we can get this other one to work. If we do a little bit at a time, since it seems to be working now. So let's first just do our generative expand. Let's see if we get it to. We'll do it one side at a time. Does anybody have any other questions? It's definitely slower today than it typically is. Helen says, thanks for this webinar. It's most useful to have you demonstrate how to use some of these new tools. You're most welcome, Helen. That's my goal, is to kind of simplify it. I know that, there's other people who do these kind of things out there, and I've watched some of the others too to learn myself, but it's not like in this picture for some reason. It just doesn't want to do anything. Yeah, that's what Dave said. It's too cold out there. Virginia says, what else besides generative AI is different between 25 and the other versions? Mostly it's updating these new tools. This is really what the updates are to Photoshop 2025. And if you have Creative Cloud, obviously it's included in your monthly, subscription. But this generative stuff is the biggest update in here, and having the capability of doing some of it in the camera raw filter as well. They've done some minor other, tweaks and things, and supposedly speeded some things up and just made things flow better. But the whole generative AI is the thing. What's that, dear? Yes, and thank you to Pat, as always, for your help in answering questions. And Pat says, the Camera Raw Expand does not seem to have the option to upscale that's available in the options in Photoshop Expand. So yeah, I think I would probably do most of that stuff once I've done my Camera Raw, my general color corrections and all that kind of stuff, and then come into Photoshop and do the generative work. Does the generative tool make the layer into a smart object? Yes. Let's see, let me open one of my finished ones, see if it shows it. You can see that these are smart. They're not smart objects, but they're smart layers. That's not what we want. You can't go in and edit it per se because it's generated by the program. So like I can't come in here, and if I wanted to like heal on this layer or something, if I wanted to do, it's going to, oh, that's the wrong brush. If I wanted to use the healing brush, it's going to, let's see what it tells me. Yeah, it's a smart object, so you must rasterize it. So you can't edit a layer like that if you wanted to do that kind of thing. So they are smart objects, but they don't work the same as the regular smart objects, I don't think, from what I can see. It's not like you can open it and do some editing because it's just this function that's on that layer. It's not going to let me add other edits to that smart object, if that makes sense. Can I fix the man's eyes? Oh, that's a whole different process. I wouldn't probably try. I think I have other shots, but I picked this more for the example than, yeah, they're not the best photos, but they're for the examples of what we needed to do. Charles, I always learn something from these webinars. Thank you. Are there any changes in the shortcuts that we should be aware of? No, I don't really think so. As far as like the keyboard shortcuts, there's no new ones that I'm aware of. There may be some that relate to these brushes, but I'm not. I just click the tool, so I don't really use keyboard shortcuts for to get to the different brushes. There's too many to remember with all of those. Don says, thank you, you're welcome. Virginia says, is your video about the gradient and adjustment layer map still up? Yep, all my webinars back to number 1 are still on the YouTube channel. And if you're not sure which one it was, if you need to know what number to look up, if you go to my website and click on the webinar page, about halfway down the page, there is a link to a PDF document that lists all of the webinars and what they were about, so you can find the one that you're looking for. I think I did that one just a few months ago, so it shouldn't be too far back. You're welcome, Bill. Amy. Okay. And you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, everybody. All right, I'm looking to see if we have any questions. Thank you for all the kudos. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. And again, the recording will be up by tomorrow morning, so you can watch the replay, and hopefully when you try it, your AI generative stuff will work the way it's supposed to. Definitely is one of those days, I guess, for Adobe. So with that, I think we'll sign off. I think we have all the questions answered. If you think of anything later, you can always email me, as always. And thanks for being here. I much appreciate it. Don't forget to get your copy of the notes while they're on sale. That way, and Helen just recommended it. So yeah, grab your copy. They're on the website, in the web store, or there's a link in the blog as well from that I went out today, and the one from Sunday. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you all soon. And be on the lookout in the blog on Sunday for my annual free texture set. I just created it a couple days ago. So it's going to go in Sunday's blog, and it'll be available through the end of December. Take care. Talk to you all soon.